Hello, friend, and welcome back to episode number 26 of my 31-day challenge, where every single day I am answering your questions about creating a career or a business that you love. And in this episode, we are talking about how do you keep a client coming back for more? How do you get them to feel like you're the catnip and they just can't resist? How do you get clients to keep coming back, keep parting with their cash, keep wanting to work with you on bigger and beautiful things? We'll be diving into all of that. If you've got a question, you can ask me on Instagram or Twitter. AlexMakesVR is my handle. You can send me a longer email at alexmakesvr@gmail.com. And every single day, I'm sending out a newsletter. Yes, I am. If you would like me to pop up in your inbox every day just to give you a nudge that the episode is live, but also give you the inside scoop on what I talk about in the episode, you can sign up to the newsletter at alexmakesvr.com. Okay, peeps, let's dive into this. How do you keep a client coming back for more? Such a good question. I think ultimately the big part is just deliver a fucking phenomenal service. And this will really kind of depend on, firstly, whether you want the client to come back for more. I mean, the number one reason why it's good to try and build a relationship with a client to be ongoing is one of the kind of trials and tribulation of freelance life is the fact that you need to try and build some consistency in your revenue streams, right? Like the aim of the game is to be able to have a consistent amount of money coming in so you don't necessarily have to worry. I mean, wouldn't it be the dream if you could have enough consistent clients on retainer, or you were kind of banking on a certain amount of money from those clients every single month so that you knew guaranteed, definitely every single month, rent and food is covered. Anything else is a bonus on top of that. That is like the dream, right? And it is quite easy to get to that place. I think, how do you keep a client coming back for more? I think the number one thing is you have to be delivering a service that needs to be done more than once. So if you're going after small one-off businesses that just need one virtual tour or one 360 training video and then it's done, those are not necessarily going to be the kind of clients that will keep coming back for more, because once you've offered that one service, it's done. So the first part of this pie is to or I should probably have said puzzle, that's probably more apt, but I've been craving pie recently. I don't know what that's about. Also, just like, I'm definitely not pregnant, but definitely having the weirdest cravings at the moment. The other night, I went out to Tesco at 10 p.m. to get Honey Nut Cheerios. Just was like, had this intense craving for Cheerios. How strange is that? That's weird. Anyway, okay, back to the question. So what, like, how do you get those kind of clients that do need consistent work from you? So it depends on obviously what kind of service you're delivering, but ideally you want, and this will take a while, you'll have to do some of those one-off jobs to get to a point where you can maybe go after a client like this, but ideally you want a client who has more than one base, more than one office, more than one portfolio of houses, like whatever it is you might be doing. I'm going to assume for the sake of this episode that we're going to be talking about the corporate world, and we're probably talking about 360 photos and videos and virtual tours. So for example, if you were to go to like a one-off cafe and do a 360 for them that they could upload to their Google business listing to promote their business and get them more clients, that's a one-off job. But if you went after a hotel chain that doesn't even need to be like a big hotel chain, but maybe you have like a hotel that you do stuff for, like the hotel rooms, but then actually they've got spas, so maybe you need to do maybe you sell them not only 360 photos of the spa, but maybe you pitch them the idea of like a 360 video experience of how relaxing and therapeutic the spa is. Maybe you sell them the idea of, you have this affiliation with the local go-karting association or whatever it is? What if you had a VR headset in the lobby and you had a 360 experience on there on what it's like to like go on like all of these little activities that you guys sell to your what do you call the people that stay at a hotel? Visitors, I guess. So maybe there's like that you can do, but also this hotel has like multiple locations, multiple different sites. So maybe you could do that. Maybe you go after like a tourism board, because a tourism board will have, not only will they have like lots of recommendations that they could make, but also they could potentially have like lots of different areas within tourism that they want to cover. So you're looking for those kind of umbrella clients that have lots going on underneath them. Like a real estate agent is like a prime example of that, because obviously their job, they are never going to run out of properties, because otherwise they will go bust. So getting in with a real estate agent and doing a really good job and becoming their go-to for virtual tours of properties, that's like the easiest way to kind of build a client relationship, and have that kind of become something that could be quite repetitive. Same with events companies, when obviously we are back in the world where we can have events. Go after events companies who their whole business is all around doing multiple events. So you know that you're going to have, it's not just there's this one-off project. There's going to be a sustainable pipeline of work. In terms of how do you do that first job and then get them to come back for more? We talked about this in another episode. I can't remember which one it was, but I like to always refer to the 3 triangle. The 3-edge triangle, well, all triangles have 3 corners, don't they? But the 3 areas that most people look at when it comes to who they want to work with is, are they a nice person? Like, do I get on with them? Are they someone that I can have a laugh with, or someone that I like can have good chat with? Are they just like a nice person to be around? They want, so much of wanting to work with someone is because you really get on with them. And unfortunately, that is the truth in any industry, because as I always say, business and life, it's a people's game. So number 1 probably will be, are you good to work with? Number 2 will be, how high quality is your work? Do you deliver a good service ultimately? Like, are your photos doing their job? And also, are you going one step beyond that? Is like, especially when you're just starting to court a client, when you're trying to kind of like you're trying to impress them, you go above and beyond on that first project. You go above and beyond to make sure that everything is like just perfect. So maybe you'll say, okay, with this project, obviously we agreed on this many shots and this many rounds of amends, but you know what, I really loved working with you, Jerry, and I'm super excited about working with you in the future. So how about on this project I give you these extra few shots and another round of amends for free, in good faith, because then hopefully you'll consider me the next time that you need another virtual tour doing like that. So you might want to do that. Now, if you are going to do that, always set it up that is not the norm. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my career is going above and beyond for clients and like doing all that stuff, but not saying that wasn't necessarily part of the package. So when I started kind of saying, oh, okay, well, this thing's going to cost $5,000 now instead of 3, they're like, wait, what? It was like 3 last time. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but you needed all of this extra stuff, which wasn't included the first time. And they're like, well, you didn't say that. So, that's not good. So make sure that you overly communicate. And if you do ever do anything extra to sweeten a deal, make sure they are aware that that's what you're doing. So, so important. And I will still do that with clients. Often the kind of projects that I work on now with clients, because they are they're usually big budgets with long timelines, and the budget has to kind of be agreed first, because there's like a whole chain of command that has to sign off the budget. And sometimes it will get to a case where we're like 2 days into production, or we're like a week away from production or something, and we're like, do you know what this production needs? It needs X, Y, Z, and we haven't budgeted for that. But I think personally, from my point of view, as the director and producer, as the person that is controlling the reins of this creative vision for this project, I'm willing to sink the cost of a sound assistant, an extra lighting kit that we need to hire, whatever it is. I'm willing to do that because I want the quality of this piece to really blow them away. And I know that your budget has been signed off and we're already super tight on budget. And so I'm going to sink that cost because I want this to be the best it can be. So I still do that to this day, but I will always overly communicate that with the client because I don't want them to then just assume that, oh, yeah, I know what this much budget gets me, every single time. So that's a really big thing to like think about, managing expectations. So are you nice to work with? Is your quality of work like a really high standard? And then the other one, it does come down to like, are you delivering on time? But also it's kind of, are you delivering on budget? Like what kind of budget? And this will depend because you can charge the same client, you can charge two different clients the same price and they will have a totally different experience about like how they see that money to their business. So if you deliver a product that is exactly the same, like let's say it's like, it's an 8 out of 10 in terms of quality and it costs the same price, let's say $2,000, let's say it's a 360 video and it's like, just like a one-off talking to camera piece or something. So, $2,000, it's an 8 out of 10 in terms of quality. To one business, that might be, oh God, they've implemented it perfectly. The headset, like the person who runs like the kind of the workshop that they use it in, he really loves VR or she really loves VR. And so she's like super passionate about, showing it to people. So it's getting used a lot, which is getting loads of good feedback, which is then feeding back to the person who commissioned it, which is making them feel good. And it's super exciting. And yes, oh my God, what a bargain. We only paid $2,000 for this and 300 quid for the headset. And like, look at the buzz that this is building. Let's 100% do this again. This is like exactly the kind of innovative thing that we needed in the company to get like, customer and like employee morale up. Like, this is exciting. And then another client could have the absolute opposite experience. They've shed out $2,000 on this thing and 300 quid for a headset and no one's touched it because everyone in the office is a technophobe and they haven't found the time to be able to implement the project perfectly. So actually when they did try it, the headset didn't work, and then because they're technophobes, they couldn't like figure it out, and so it got really stressful and actually threw the day off. And do you know what I mean? So some of it will come down to their own like experience of what. So then they will be like, oh, what a waste of $2,500 nearly. Like, so much of that is how much of that can you safeguard? How much of that can you kind of get on top of? And this is why you need to be really, really on top of your processes if you are delivering for VR, specifically for VR, because 360 is a little bit less, as long as you're delivering a virtual tour or a 360 photo or video that they're just uploading to Facebook or YouTube or embedding on their website, like vaguely. I mean, obviously there are still things that could go wrong, but it's a bit more of a simpler process than a company having to use a headset and make sure that they know how to do it and make sure they know what to do when the update kind of glitches it all out and you need to restart it, and what you need to do when the battery needs replacing in the controller, and all of the stuff that comes along with delivering to a VR headset. Making sure that you're super on top of that, making sure that you're preparing the customer for that, making sure that when they bring you in because they're super excited about VR, that you're not just selling them the actual 360 video that goes on the headset, but you're selling them, and you're not necessarily even selling them the headset, but you're making sure that they are super aware of what that whole workflow looks like and how they can implement it in their business properly, so that then they do have the experience of the first client where $2,500 seems like an absolute steal because it's had such a positive impact on their business, versus if you just and this wouldn't necessarily always be your fault, but if you're brought in and you literally just deliver the 360 video, but then they have absolutely no idea what to do with it, or they don't use it properly. So maybe even things like going out of your way to begin with about like following up with the client, making sure that they know that they can call you if they need to troubleshoot any of the tech, like kind of holding their hand through the process. Again, all of that is going that next step to build a really good relationship with the client so that it makes it easy for them to come back to you. That's the whole thing with coming back to you. And there will be some clients that the only thing they care about is price. And if they can find someone cheaper, they will. If Fiverr all of a sudden starts offering what you can do, then they'll go there because the only thing they care about is price. But those aren't really the kind of clients that will kind of keep coming back for more anyway. They're not the kind of clients that you necessarily want to work with. You want the kind of clients that they really value your expertise, they trust you, they value your services, and they know ultimately that it's going to have a big impact on their business or whatever it is that they are interested in selling or doing. And the reason why they're commissioning the VR or the 360 piece in the first place is because they know what a big impact it's going to have. Like, those are the kind of clients you want to find and work with. And that will take time. And that will take time of like working with clients and then realizing that they're not a good fit for you, because that's the other side of the coin, right? It's like, how do you get clients to keep coming back to you? Sometimes you'll work with clients that you don't want to keep coming back to you. And that maybe is for another episode. So ultimately, I think what it comes down to is, number one, find clients that actually can come back to you continuously because they have the scope to commission lots of different work. It's hard with, especially VR. VR definitely has a much longer life time in terms of people deciding whether or not to implement it long term. So they very rarely will just jump in and be like, excellent, we've got a year's worth of VR work that we want to do together, unless you're plugging into and that's a kind of a good point, actually. If you want, this won't be consistent work, but if you want a client that comes back to you repeatedly, definitely go down the route of creative agencies as well, if that's something you're interested in. Because especially if you can become chummy with the kind of the project managers at a creative agency that decide what freelancers come in on a project. Obviously, the whole point of a creative agency is that they deal with several brands and several companies at the same time. So that could be also a really easy way, if you can get in there, create a good impression, deliver good work, deliver it on time, with that, it's kind of nice because you kind of just show up, you do your job, and then it's done. You don't necessarily have to worry about the implementation on the kind of client side, because that's the agency's job. But still have to kind of build that rapport with that project manager so that they can't resist coming back to you every time. So yeah, that's another also like very valid kind of like source to go after. I think I was talking about ditching clients before that, but I think we'll save that for another episode. But yeah, I think ultimately when it comes to getting those repeat clients, just be a ray of sunshine that someone can't resist working with, and know that sometimes it's out of your control. A lot of the times it's out of your control, whether it be budgets or whether it be the amount of times that someone has kind of like pipped me to the post on like a job because, you know, usually be a nepotism thing of like, oh, so-and-so's buddy with, you know, the founder of blah, blah, blah. So actually that's the recommendation they went with and they've gone with a different company because of that. But when you can like kind of get that FaceTime with a client, build that rapport, actually show an interest in their business. That's another big one as well. Like, and I do that. Actually, I genuinely do that because I'm just super curious about everything, and I'm convinced that I might actually be an AI, and I just constantly devour new information, and I want to soak it up and understand it. It doesn't matter what the subject matter is or what the industry is. I'm super curious, especially when it comes to business. I'm always super curious about people's businesses, and people like that. People like for. You know, especially if you're working directly with the owner of that business, people love talking about that. That's their pride and joy. That's their baby. Like, so it's actually really humbling for them, and they really want to talk about their journey with the business and what their vision is and that kind of thing. And that helps feed into what you're then going to pitch them back with your work. But also, if you're a curious person, if you're actually interested, then it's like you're learning stuff as well. So it's like a win-win. And generally, the punchline actually is that the best clients that keep coming back to you is when it's a win-win for both of you. And it makes no sense for them to go anywhere else. So I'm going to end this episode here. I hope that helps. I hope that there was some actionable stuff in there, even if it's just like even thinking about the kind of client you're going to go after. If you want it to kind of be a repeat client, obviously there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down in terms of working for retainer versus just one-off project fees. I mean, although I like the idea of the retainer, I've never found it works in principle because you end up, well, I mean, I personally felt like a bit tied down into retainers, and obviously it ties you into certain rates. So it makes it difficult to kind of grow in terms of how much money you can charge for projects and that kind of thing. But it's a super exciting thing when you're just starting as a freelancer and you've got a retainer client which is going to pay your rent for the next 3 or 6 months. That's super exciting. So I absolutely wouldn't discount it. And if stability is something you're looking for whilst working for yourself, retainer clients are like the best. And that is definitely going to come in the form of people like real estate who need constant content and can definitely secure you a certain amount of money every month. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna leave that there. Let me know if this helped, and also if you've got your own question, obviously ask me on social media. Alex Makes VR on Instagram and Twitter. If you've got a longer question, alexmakesvr@gmail.com. Send me an email, and to sign up to the newsletter so that every day you can be reminded when the episodes go live, but also get a bit of a recap and a bit of an insider scoop on what I talk about, alexmakesvr.com. And I will speak to you tomorrow.